everybody, it's the HooperCast. Good evening, everyone. It is I, Connor. It is he, Dustin, and he, Philip, returning. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. Oh, now, Dustin, you sound really low.
I'm low.
Yeah.
I'll scream.
I don't know if that's... Is it just my volume?
He
Maybe?
doesn't sound any different in my ear.
Something's wrong.
What'd you do to me, Hooper?
I don't know. I'm not sure what happened. I don't know. Talk again, Dustin. This is weird.
Hey, 1, 2.
All right, that's a great way to start the show.
Right.
Would you like this one?
No, I'm okay. It's these. I don't know. It's these headphones. It might be because we split them. All right. Well, onward. We're the HooperCast.
Yes.
If you're watching on YouTube, then hi, nice to see you. Or on Facebook. As these are premiering, hopefully you're watching as live, so it feels like we're doing it live. So if you're watching or listening to this, it is Friday, December 14th. I hope you're going to have a great weekend. Mm-hmm. That would benefit everyone. All iTunes for the podcast and all other podcast platforms, of course, for audio only, which is what we do here, isn't it, Dustin?
It is.
Woo! All right, so let's get right into some stuff. We have a full slate to talk about. So let's get the ball rolling with the weekend box office.
Yeah.
Okay. So this past weekend, December 7th through 9th, there was not a change in the box office. For the top
Everything was exactly the same?
The top 6 films were all the same. Ralph Breaks the Internet, still number 1 for the third week in a row.
Yep.
Took in $16 million. That's a total gross of $140 million. Yep. A worldwide of 261. So good for them. It's a 175 budget. Still doesn't seem like that much money to make considering the budget, but
Right.
that's a big budget. Where's all that money going? Licensing?
Yeah, John C. Reilly's wallet.
I guess so, but like you would think that, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking it's all those properties that they have to clear.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's got to be that. Well, coming in number 2, Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, with a weekend gross of $15 million, up to $223 million total domestically, with $100 million less of a budget than Ralph Breaks the Internet, with $75 million. That worldwide gross is up to $329. So The Grinch may be in second place, but it's doing better than Ralph.
Yeah, sure.
And we talked about that, and you actually mentioned, Dustin, and I actually ended up recalling this, how you had said you'd be interested to see what would happen to this movie in the box office because of how it was placed, like when it came out in early November, and how it has this staying power through the holiday season.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, I mean, it is dropping, right? Last week it made 17 million. This week it's made 15 million. And so that's a drop, but really a $2 million drop isn't much of a drop.
Yeah, only a 16% drop, which is a pretty low percentage change, because usually on Box Office Mojo, we're used to seeing like 30 or 40.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, to compare that, there was between its first and second weekend, it dropped 42%, which is about normal. And so it was number 1 when it premiered. It then was number 2 in its second week, number 3 in its third week, and then it went back up to 2 for the last 2 weeks. So it is interesting, this being a Christmas movie. You know, again, I stand by that. I think it's going to have longer legs simply because more people will go see it near Christmas than, normally they'd go see a 6-week-old movie. So, yeah, interesting.
And the Grinch's wallet grew 3 sizes that day.
Right.
It's weird. It's because, like, that Universal, like, someone is busting into someone's office today going, "Johnson, you're a genius." And Johnson's just like...
The plan worked.
I told you it would.
Right.
All right, rounding out number 3 is Creed 2, making just shy of $10 million, a 40% drop from last week. So this is its third week on the box office. Still number 3. Total gross $96 million, $50 million budget. Worldwide, 121. It's not doing that well in the foreign market. I wonder if it has something to do with him boxing a Russian.
Yeah, possibly. I think these movies typically do much better in the U.S. than anywhere else.
Maybe it's the American flag pants.
That could be it.
Maybe they don't like that anywhere else.
Right.
Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, number 4, and I'm only mentioning this just because it's a big release, but domestically it still has not touched its budget. It's its 4th week in the box office. It's number 4.
Yeah.
Has not grossed over 140. It's grossed $145 million, but it's got a $200 million budget. Now, again, worldwide, it's over the $500 million mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's fine. But
definitely.
I feel like all the other Harry Potters surpassed their budget domestically.
Yeah, I don't feel like this is in danger of, not getting a sequel or Warner Brothers changing trajectory. But I do feel like this doesn't bode well.
Yeah.
There's somebody somewhere counting up the dollars and saying, "Ooh, I don't know about this one, guys." And like I said, it's probably not enough to do anything yet, but you can bet your bottom dollar if the next one underperforms, there's going to be some changes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, that's the box office. Now, for the past few weeks, we've been like, oh, there's the box office. And guess what? It's not going to change because everything coming out this weekend is garbage.
Yeah.
Well, guess what, Philip? It's not this weekend. This weekend, we have a number of releases that will certainly impact the box office. We have Mortal Engines, which I think is based on a book. I'm just going to go on a limb and guess it's based on a book.
Yes, I believe it is.
What are the odds that I'm right, Dustin? It's based on existing property.
I think it's a YA novel.
So we got a chick who looks like Electra up here on the with this red. You see that, Dustin?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, for a second I thought it was an Electra movie, but it's Mortal Engines, and it's pretty much about if cities could move.
Yeah, something about a post-apocalyptic future where all the cities are on wheels and drive around and war with other cities that are on wheels.
Yeah.
It's like Mad Max if each car was a whole town.
A whole city. First of all,
it makes no sense.
How does that? It doesn't make any sense. The roads are not that flat enough to drive.
I don't.
What kind of gasoline do they use?
I don't know.
Could you imagine? You know what they did to people? They did to each other in Mad Max to get like a can of gasoline, kill Max's whole family.
Right.
Try to kill him just for gas.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah. You know how much diesel it takes to run London?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it too hard. Because it looks like they didn't.
No.
Yeah. A Predator City on wheels, and this does not have a Rotten Tomatoes score on it. I wonder if it's been screened for critics.
It probably has. They may be embargoed.
Oh, that's never a good sign.
No.
Well, it's not never a good sign. It's usually not a good sign. Never a good sign is we're not screening it at all.
Yeah, right.
We don't want anyone to see this horrible thing. All right. Also coming out, The Mule with Clint Eastwood. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Philip, have you heard of The Mule?
Yeah, well, now that you say that, Clint Eastwood, I know I've seen some trailers.
Yeah, and it's just him being a drug mule, and it looks pretty cool. I like Clint Eastwood movies.
Yeah, me too.
Got like a good feel to it.
And I bet it's pretty low budget also.
Yeah, most likely.
Also, but what is probably going to make the most money is going to be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll make more money than Mortal Engines?
I do, but here's the weird thing. So I was talking to a couple people today actually and mentioned the movie because I actually screened that last week. So I have seen it, and
are you embargoed?
And so I was telling. I'm not embargoed. No, okay. I could say what I want.
Sure.
So I told a couple people today that it was really good, and they said, so spoiler alert for my forthcoming review, and they said, oh, I didn't even know that was happening, and I'm like, ooh, that's never a good sign. So my question is now whether or not this is being marketed well.
Yeah.
I don't have cable TV at home, so I don't know how many TV spots are going on for this thing. But I'm hoping that people know about this movie because it is good, and I do think it deserves to be seen in theaters. So I think it'll do better than Mortal Engines, but I hope it opens at number 1. We'll see.
Yeah, with everything I hear about this movie, it seems like it's really good. And a lot of people are saying it's really good, like not just as entertainment, but in terms of how they like comic book stories to be told.
Yeah.
So it would be good if it was supported by lots of money. So
Right,
that
exactly.
There was an added incentive to keep doing that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Into the Spider-Verse. And then there was
Which is currently sitting at a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
Ooh.
Ah.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. You're right. All right. We've also got Once Upon a Deadpool, which we talked about previously, was the PG-13 version of Deadpool with the Fred Savage vignettes.
Yep.
I'm looking at this poster right now with him coming out of the clouds. And apparently, I saw an article about how the Mormon church might sue them because of that painting. Yeah, because I think it's like a copyrighted painting.
Oh, wow.
So, whoopsie daisy. Yeah, so it's Deadpool 2 again, but it comes off to me. I mean, it's I'm sure it's funny and like entertaining, but it comes off to me as just a blatant money grab,
Cash grab.
Yeah. Even no matter how fun it is, it seems like Ryan Reynolds said, "Hey, it'd be funny if we sort of did a Princess Bride sort of spin on Deadpool 2 with what we've already shot."
Yeah.
And then be like, "That sounds stupid. Why would we ever do that?" And he says, "Because it'll make money." And they went,
And then they're like, "Oh,
and
okay,
Fox
yeah,
said,
sure."
"We like money."
Yeah.
Oh boy. Anyway, so that's coming out this weekend too. All of them.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: there are people out there who love Deadpool no matter what. There are so many Deadpool.
Yeah.
I found it a lot harder to find someone who voted for Donald Trump who will criticize Donald Trump than it is to find someone who saw the first Deadpool who will criticize the subsequent Deadpool movies.
Yes.
Because like I saw Deadpool and I liked it, but I saw Deadpool 2 and I was not impressed at all. I was pretty disappointed, and I'm sure that I would be mildly amused by this, but why would I watch the plot of the film I didn't like?
Right.
Again.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. But there are people who are just like, oh, Deadpool, just because he talks to the camera and he says fuck a lot, and he whatever.
Right. He must be edgy and
It's kind of like
breaks
Family
the fourth
Guy
wall and
to an extent. If you're self-referential enough, people recognize you and they don't realize that they're laughing at familiarity, but they're not laughing at actual jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little trap. It's called a Pavlovian response, everyone.
Yeah.
I heard someone bring that up in reference to Dane Cook one time.
Really?
Another comedian, I can't remember who it was, but they had said like, I mean, that's what Dane had going for him for a while. He he figured out how to get the audience to laugh, even if he didn't really say anything. He would just he would say stuff. I don't know if you remember his stand-up, Dustin.
Yeah,
it was everywhere like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was. Like our freshman year of college, he was big.
Yeah, toward the end of high school and then college. And he would just say things, and he'd be like, it was crazy. It was banana Skittles. And people would just sort of laugh.
Yeah.
And then you look back on it now, and I remember showing it to my dad one time because I was like, hey, I showed it to Dad. Did I ever tell you that? I showed Dad this this like Dane Cook little bit, and he didn't laugh one time. So I'm sitting next to our dad, as closest to him as I am to you now, just going like, and then halfway through going like, oh wow, this is a bust. and then I was just like, you didn't think any of that was funny? He's like, no, he didn't really say anything funny. And he's like, he said, who's really funny? Rita Rudner. It's like, who? And now I'm like, yeah, Rita Rudner, because his whole point was Rita Rudner could be funny and she didn't have to curse or make up words or do anything.
Yeah.
And that was totally his shtick. Anyway, yeah, Pavlovian, it definitely is put to use in film.
Now I'm worried when you said banana Skittles that I just laughed out of a Pavlovian response.
Yeah, see, I made you do it.
Right.
Because I'm right.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it in theaters. That I saw. There's The House That Jack Built, which is I've heard of this actually. I've heard someone review this. Dylan McDermott is so it's about a kid who thinks that his dad is this famous serial killer around their area, and Dylan McDermott plays the dad, and I've heard it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. I've heard his performance is really, really good.
Excellent.
Yeah. So and it's Cohen-esque in its atmosphere building.
Ah, gotcha.
As we will discuss later on in this episode.
Yes, we will.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get closer to that point then.
Sure.
Let's talk about one of these movies, Dustin, that you saw, because you've seen 2 of these top 3 box office films.
I have. So let's start with Ralph Breaks the Internet. I saw this a few weeks ago. Ralph Breaks the Internet, for those not in the know, is the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. The name of this film still bothers me. It should be Ralph Wrecks the Internet or something about Wreck-It. You know, like I get it. You know, Breaks the Internet was like a thing at one point, like in 2015. But Ralph Wrecks the Internet, like that's a clever pun and like a play on the phrase break the internet, but whatever. Anyway.
It wasn't even clever. It's just, let's take a phrase and put Ralph's name in front of it.
Right, exactly.
And that's the title. I remember I saw the title and I was like, is that a fake title? Right.
It feels like a working title, not like an actual title.
I have to be honest, Dustin, from the first trailer, when I first learned the title of this film, it really was then that I decided, I don't think I'm interested in this no matter what. Like, you could show me a golden trailer. You could...
Right.
Me from the future could pop in and be like, hey, no, it's really good. Give it a chance. I'd be like, I know what you're smoking because I'm not seeing this.
Right.
This stupid name.
Right. No, I'm with you. Like, Ralph Breaks the Internet, when they announced that title, I honestly thought it was a joke. So, yeah. But I'll say this. Like, the trailers started to win me over, and I'm one of those people. A lot of people really think Wreck-It Ralph was phenomenal. I think it was good.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't over the moon about it. I've only seen it the one time, just once in theaters, and that was it. I'd like to revisit it, but I have no interest in buying the Blu-ray. Maybe one day. But yeah, so I saw this one, and my knee-jerk reaction is that I like this better than the first.
Oh.
And that may just be, you know, like looking back on it, my memory isn't super clear, or it may be just because this is newer and looks cleaner, or whatever the case is. But I do feel like I kind of like this one better than the first one.
Interesting.
But to clarify, I would like to go back and rewatch the first, like, you know, now just to see, but I'm gonna go out on a limb. I like this one better than the first one. Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet. I keep wanting to call it Wreck-It Ralph 2. Right. Ralph Breaks the Internet follows our 2 heroes, Ralph and Vanellope, voiced by John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman. They inadvertently break the physical arcade machine that Vanellope lives in. They break the steering wheel. And so they overhear the arcade owner say, I don't have the money to fix it. It would be, you know, X amount of dollars to buy a new steering wheel on eBay. So I don't have that money to fix it. So I'm done.
So right. What was it, like $50?
I think it's like 300 or something in the movie.
That guy doesn't have $300 wiggle room in his budget.
I guess not.
Good.
So anyway, he says, I'll just junk it. I'll sell it for parts, you know, whatever. And so, of course, this when he unplugs it, all of the characters in the game become homeless. And so Ralph and Vanellope decide to go to the internet to buy this steering wheel to send to the arcade owner, Mr. Litwack, and that's sort of the crux of the movie. Like, that's the inciting incident. It's broken. They got to go find the steering wheel, send it to him in the real physical world, so that he can repair the machine and they can continue their fun adventures. But of course, the film takes a bunch of twists and turns. You know, some of this I won't spoil. Some of it is very obvious. Like, hey, in order to buy a steering wheel, you need money, so they've got to figure out how to make money on the internet. So there's a lot of, you know, sort of
ways to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they do try a lot of different ways. So the other voice cast in the film, Gal Gadot, Taraji P. Henson, Jack McBrayer, Jane Lynch are back. Alan Tudyk is back, but as a different character. Alfred Molina, Ed O'Neill. It's a who's who cast.
Is Alan Tudyk doing the Ed Wynn voice again, or is it?
No, it's a completely different
So they
character.
just liked Alan, so they brought him back.
Yeah. Well, Alan's in basically every Disney movie now.
That's right.
So yeah, he is in this one.
He has tenure.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he was even in a Star Wars movie. So
Yeah, he was K2SO.
yeah, I didn't remember his name, but sure.
I'm ashamed that I did.
Whatever the Rogue One robot's name is, the one that everybody liked, and then everyone forgot about.
Yeah.
Pretty much,
Except for me.
right? And which is ironic because you didn't even
I
like
don't even
that
like
movie.
the movie. Stupid name stuck in my head.
Right. Yeah. So the film is there's a lot of really cool things in it that Disney fans will enjoy. Some cool moments for Marvel fans. Some cool moments for Star Wars fans. A bunch of moments for people who are just fans of the internet. And although the internet, as depicted here, can seem a little like what your 40-year-old dad thinks the internet is. It's like, oh, it's cat memes, right? Even though that's a part of the movie, they do a good job of sort of personifying the internet in the movie, and I was pleased with that. I thought it was going to come across really hokey. I never saw the Emoji Movie, but this has that same sort of feel where you've got all of these very public brands. You've got Facebook, you've got Google, you've got all these, Amazon, eBay, by name in this film, which of course could date this movie. Say in 15, 20, 30 years, we may not be looking back on this as fondly. But
right.
Regardless, the movie is a lot of fun. It's really funny. The two characters, Ralph and Vanellope, their character interactions, their friendship is really, really explored in detail here, which is great. And what I didn't expect was this film to actually give them both a chance to grow as characters. I thought this would feel like either a cash grab, a licensing play, or some sort of, weird thing where like, okay, we'll talk about Ralph and Vanellope will hardly be in it, or vice versa.
Right.
And they really give equal screen time to both of them, and they explore both of those characters well and in interesting ways. And by the end of the film, they're both different people than they were when it started, which is really great to see characters with fully realized arcs. And maybe that's why I like it so much. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. This is not a movie that I'm gonna watch over and over and over again, but I could see myself going back to this 2 or 3 more times, and especially more than the first one. So here's my recommendation. If you're looking for something to see with the family, I think I would see this before I would see Grinch. Although spoiler alert, with Spider-Man coming out, I would go with that one for say older kids like 13, 14, 15.
Right.
I'd take them to see Spider-Man, and anything younger, I'd take them to see Ralph. And then if you decided to wait for Redbox, well, I think that'd be okay too. But I do think if you could catch even a matinee of this, it is worth seeing in theaters with an audience. Just for the sake of the laughter, because it is a funny movie, and they really give the characters and specifically John C. Reilly and Sarah Silverman a chance to tickle your funny bones. So yeah, I do recommend Ralph Breaks the Internet. It is better than the first, although maybe still not quite up to the level you'd expect a Disney classic to be.
I'm particularly interested in this princess scene here because there's been essays and articles and think pieces on it about it, how it sort of makes it even more evident that Disney is very much interested in, or very much aware of its image. And how it recognizes where it would want to subvert itself, or its role in young feminism or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that Disney's kind of on a hot streak with that, right? Where, hey, let's play to what people expect of us, right? Like you've got Frozen, where you can't love him, you just met him, right? And then you have Moana, where it's like, oh, you have a animal sidekick, then you must be a princess. And then you have in this, the whole princess scene. Where that we've seen in trailers and we've seen on Disney Channel and whatever else. The kid behind me in the movie was quoting the scene, and I know it was that kid's first time seeing this movie, so that tells me this scene is somewhere, and I'm assuming that it's Disney Channel.
Right.
And so anyway, this whole thing, I agree with you. I think Disney has found that if they reference themselves and subvert your expectations and just sort of like poke fun at themselves, that they're seeing some success there. I do think that that's going to start getting old. So the days of that are limited. In other words, 10 years from now, if we're still watching a movie where they're doing the same princess tropes and just talking about them, it's like, well, but you're not really doing anything new. You're just acknowledging that you're not doing anything new. And so, but I will say this, the princess stuff in this movie is some of the best stuff in this movie. I
just think it's really cool that I don't know, I'm a crossover nerd. So like it's part of why I love the Avengers movies so much, but I'm really enjoying just seeing them all in the room, like hanging out, just sort of being like, hey, what's up?
And it's great because it's the original voice actresses for the most part.
I wonder who's missing. Well,
I'm not sure. It may be people who are just a little too old to do it.
I'm guessing Cinderella and Snow White.
Yeah, or like Snow White or whatever.
And Sleeping Beauty.
But most of them are the original actresses. And then they even brought back a lot of the supervising animators. So for those of you that don't know, when you do an animated film, a lot of times these characters will have a supervising animator who kind of makes sure that the character always looks on model and is just being translated well for the screen. And so they brought a lot of those people back and said, how would Ariel move in 3D?
Yeah.
Right. And so they bring in Glenn Keane and say, tell us,
wow, that's great.
How would this work? And so Glenn Keane is sitting there, maybe not at the light table actually drawing it, but he's sitting there saying like, okay, but her hair doesn't move that way. Right. So even in 3D, you're getting like the person who developed the look of Ariel developing the look for Ariel in 3D. So it does work really well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Just to keep that extra piece of continuity,
Exactly.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I know that Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell came back for Elsa and Anna. Ali Carvalho is back for Moana. Mandy Moore is there for and then
Rapunzel.
God bless her, I can't remember her name for Princess Tiana from Princess and the Frog.
Yep.
And I'm not sure who's Belle, but I think it's the same actress.
Yes, it is, and I think if I remember right, Jodie Benson plays,
is back as Ariel.
And what's the name of the actress that plays Mulan? She's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Oh man.
Crap.
Ming Na Wen.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I know.
Yep, there you go.
I know.
I'm impressed.
Yes. Thank you.
I was reaching for Google,
Yeah, no, that's
right.
her. Ming Na Wen, that's her. Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear because like I hate the title of this film, but
me too.
But I've heard that it's not like mind-blowingly better than the first one, but it just appropriately expands the world and the story and the characters in a way that a sequel should.
It really does. Look, this movie. I know this is important to you as a father. It is going to be a movie that it's not going to be a chore for you to watch 17 times in a row.
Oh, thank God.
So, I'm looking at you, Frozen.
Oh man, what a terrible movie. Okay,
I watched that once and I'm tired of it.
Man,
I watched it twice and then I watched it through his daughter.
I'm so tired of it.
Watched it in live action.
To the point where like I will do everything in my power to shield the sequel's marketing from her so that she's not aware that there's another one.
She's gonna grow up and she's like 35
and she's like,
me. What? There's a Frozen franchise? Of Frozen 16 is out?
I did it for your own good.
Just kidding. It was for my
Also,
own
I
good.
hate it. All right, cool. All right, well, let's see. What's number 2? So you did not see The Grinch, Dustin.
I did not.
But you did see Creed 2.
I did. So Creed 2, very quickly, is directed by Stephen Caple Jr. It is not directed by Ryan Coogler, who wrote and directed the previous film.
Yes, they are not the same person.
Correct. But a lot of people think Ryan Coogler directed this. He didn't. He did. I think, he got a character by credit for Adonis, and I think he's one of the producers. But
He's
I think
one
that's
of the
it.
producers, and I believe he co-wrote. He co-created the character. So
so he's relatively hands off in this movie. But so the story follows Adonis Creed. He's now the heavyweight champion of the world, and he is issued a challenge by Ivan Drago and Drago's son Victor. They are ready to take him on, and of course this opens up a whole bunch of old wounds for Adonis, whose dad Apollo died in the ring with Ivan in Rocky IV.
Yep.
So this now all of a sudden becomes very personal to him. Meanwhile, and perhaps what the story is actually about, Adonis is he's proposed to his girlfriend, played by Tessa Thompson, and the two are expecting a child. So really, that's what I love about these Rocky movies is you can talk all day long about the fights and all of that, and that's certainly a part of it. I'm not discounting that at all. But when I think about Rocky, what makes it stand out to me is that first movie is like a love story. It's not really a boxing movie. It is, but it's not. And then Rocky 2 is like, oh, there's problems with the delivery of their first child, and there's all this stuff where Rocky's in and out of the hospital with Adrian, and then the franchise kind of loses that a little bit moving forward, but then it kind of comes back, and it'll kind of hit you in pieces every now and then with something like that, and like Rocky Balboa, right? And then here we saw that in Creed. We're seeing that here in Creed 2. So that's my favorite part of these movies is how the personal lives of these men are affected by what they do, and likewise thematically how what they're dealing with in their personal lives and what they're dealing with in their professional lives kind of all coexist thematically. And that's just what I love about these, right? If Rocky 1 is about Rocky going the distance, if it's about him trying things that are new, and it's about him just trying to, believe in himself and blah, 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 that's fleshed out both in his personal and professional lives in different ways. And that's what I think is really interesting about these movies. And that's where I think these are set apart from other boxing movies or even sports movies in general. So going in, I was a little worried because Ryan Coogler is a huge talent. And so to have him a little more hands off with this was scary. But I got to say this. I don't know that I like it better than Creed, but it's pretty much just as good.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
And it's weird because I think it's got a lower Rotten Tomatoes score, and there's a few people who are a little more mixed on it. And it seems like most of those reviews that I'm reading, people are just saying, well, he doesn't have Ryan Coogler's eye. And it's like, yeah, he doesn't. But at the same time,
he has his own.
Yeah, it's a different thing. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this, other than that it's very good. I'm a sucker for the Rocky movies. I've loved every single one of them with the exception of Rocky V, although I really do want to rewatch it because I feel like I'm not giving it a fair shake.
Which, Rocky V?
Yeah.
That's the
bad one that no one talks about.
Man, I'm here to tell you, I just don't watch it.
I remember it being really bad, but I kind of want to rewatch it. Like, I have no idea why.
I'm telling you, it's a fool's errand, and you will get nothing out of it.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Called
fair enough.
No. This is the one before that. This is the last one they made before Balboa's Rocky V, and And it's the one basically where they've decided that Rocky's getting dumber because he's had brain damage from all the fighting.
Yeah, he had brain damage specifically from the fight with Ivan Drago. He was brain damaged,
which was Rocky 4.
Rocky 4 he fought Ivan. Rocky 5 they realized he was brain damaged. He quit fighting and decided to train a new kid
named Tommy Gunn. Who sounds like a Street Fighter character. Yeah, and he looks like one. He's got like spiky blonde hair.
Exactly,
looks like Ryu's older brother.
I thought that was
Drago. And I think the final fight takes place like in the street. It's not even a boxing match.
There's not a boxing match for the climax of this movie. He street fights some dude, and that's how it ends. I was like, it ended. I was angry.
Yeah, not okay with me.
Yeah, and also if you want to follow like the idea that throughout these movies, Rocky has gone from this uneducated bum to a rich bum with a heart of gold to a guy who's actually becoming educated and more literate. Like throughout the movies, he gets more. His speech changes and he gets more verbose and educated. Yeah. He's used his wealth to better himself and his community. So for the fifth one, for them to go, oh, he's got brain damage now. It's like, what?
Yeah, it didn't really work.
It doesn't work at all.
And they haven't really mentioned that again, except for in this one very briefly. Rocky has a line that just says like, he's talking about Ivan Drago, and he says something like, "That man broke things in me that ain't never been fixed." Yeah, and like that's all we need, right?
Sure.
And that could even be talking about like, not mental capacity, but that could just mean like, he broke my spirit or whatever. Yeah. He broke me.
I can't get intimate with a lady anymore.
Well, now that Adrian's passed, I assume that those days are over.
Oh, that's true. Man, I feel bad about saying that now. I feel bad about these fictional characters.
Right. But so. This movie is like I said, it's just as good as Creed. It does feel a little bit different. It does feel a little more wrapped up in the Rocky franchise than Creed did. But I think that's on purpose. And I've also heard people say, well, they shouldn't have gone back to the Rocky well. Like, oh, why drag this story up? It seems contrived or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but look, at the end of the day, this is the movie that everybody wanted. Right? Like, I got to give them points for that. This is like what The Last Jedi should have been. It's like, hey, let's say, okay, if all the fans want Rocky to fight Drago again, well, we're not going to give you that, but we can give you the next best thing. We can give you Rocky's protege fighting Ivan's protege, right? And this is the thing. We want to see Creed fight the man or his son that killed his dad, and that's what the fans want.
It makes total sense too.
Let's give it to him
for his character to have to deal with that.
And there's a really good motivation internally in the film, story-wise, to explain why they're coming out of the woodwork now and why they're coming out of the woodwork at all. And so I have no problem with that whatsoever. The performances are all great. Huge props to Michael B. Jordan, because that dude works this movie like he just works to the bone for this. There's a training montage that may be one of the best in the franchise, and I love those training montages. And this one ends, and it's just so incredibly powerful. But having said all of that, here's where I'm gonna like throw in my chips and say this. This is the closest I have been to crying in a movie since Toy Story 3. Oh. And that is just me. Like, I've heard nobody else say that. Like, I saw this with other people. Nobody else felt that way. Like, it's literally just me.
Wow.
But that is how affected by this I was, because I'm so invested in the character of Rocky and now Adonis. I'm so totally sold on these characters, and I want to see them succeed. I want to see them grow. I want to see them better themselves. And when you see what happens in this film, to me, it's just a perfect encapsulation of who these characters are, and that they end in a place that you want them to end in. And Yeah, I really, really loved the heck out of this movie. I don't give 5 stars often, and every time I do, I say like I don't know if I should, or I
Right.
think about it afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, but what if something better comes along? But at the end of the day, how much did you enjoy the movie? I enjoyed the movie a heck of a lot. So I could split hairs and say I'm going to give it a 4.5, but I'm just going to give it a 5.
Oh,
I love this movie. It's just so great. Stallone was robbed last time for the Oscar. He ought to get it this time. It's a tough category this year, I'm sure, but he deserves a nomination at the very least. And this is just such a fun movie. And if you like the Rocky movies at all, you'll like this. If you hate the Rocky movies already, you're probably going to hate this too. But I love the Rocky movies, so
Yeah.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I this is 100% how you do a sequel to a legacy film that remains true to the characters, and actually continues their story from the first, like, part of the franchise, right? So yeah, I'm not going to go into Star Wars and blah blah blah, but you can't help but think, you cannot help but think that everybody ought to be looking to Creed and Creed 2 and saying, like, how do we do a sequel?
Yeah.
And everybody ought to be looking to Better Call Saul and say, how do we do a prequel? I'm just going to throw that in there for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy this. Go see this in the theaters. It is better with an audience. It will always be better with an audience. When you can hear the people around you cheer, when you can hear them gasp, when you can hear them shout when there's a epic punch in slow motion that's like, just blood curdling.
Yeah.
This is a movie to see in theaters. Yeah.
man, that's good to hear.
Yeah. I loved it.
Oh, wow. 5 stars for Creed 2.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Let's see. We're about the 42-minute mark.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Buster Scruggs?
Let's do it.
All right. The reason Philip's here. Buster Scruggs.
Yeah. Yes.
Does anyone else care to set this up?
Yeah. One of you guys set this up.
Philip, why don't you set up the movie?
Well, so what I have to say about it, Dad brought it up and he said there's this new Coen Brothers film on Netflix, and so we finally watched it. And because we were having audio issues at the house, like in terms of playing it on the actual TV and everything syncing up, for a while, like I kind of got the gist that, in the beginning, I was like, is this like a Western musical? Like, this is not, what I was expecting.
Right.
But I guess at some point before we like really launched into it, I picked up on the fact that it wasn't a movie with like a plot particularly. And
Yeah.
I was thinking like, oh, is this going to be kind of like Pulp Fiction where, there's sort of these little things and they kind of weave in with each other, like with similar characters, but it doesn't necessarily go chronological. And it wasn't, but I really enjoyed it. It just because like the feel for the movie was just the same throughout, and I think it was just kind of I don't know how to put into words sort of how to describe, but it's like No Country for Old Men was a Coen Brothers film, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies, and one of the reasons that's one of my favorite movies is just like the feel throughout the whole thing is just so good. And so the little stories that they have in here that are centered around like kind of a Western made me think a lot of like took me back to like Oregon Trail, like when we'd play Oregon Trail.
I was thinking about Oregon Trail during the Zoe Kazan story because I kept thinking, I was like, someone's gonna get dysentery. They better work a joke in here. And then I thought, no, please don't do that.
Right.
They had it really made me think a lot of like what was really going on.
Yeah.
Sort of in that kind of time.
The fact that they're on their way to Fort Laramie.
Yeah. But I just like I would love to just at times like go back and just find like one of these a piece,
Yeah.
Like if I just wanted to watch something good in the evening, just be like, oh, I'm gonna find one of the little 6 or 7. I can't remember how many it was.
6.
6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just like watch one of those as like a short film.
Yeah, one of the things that the Coen brothers do really well is atmosphere, and in terms of technical filmmaking, they're masters at it.
That's the word I was
Their
looking for.
sound design is always perfect. Their cinematography and sound design are always absolutely perfect. The shots are always nice to look at, like engaging to look at. It keeps your attention even when nothing's going on. And they do have a lot of moments in their films where there's little things going on, or there's characters with these idiosyncrasies happening, and so they know how to hold your attention while still maintaining like an ambiguous atmosphere. Which is hard to do. Some people can't do that. They have to hit you over the head with something, or with action, or with pace, or with dialogue. And the Coens do have good dialogue, but they don't have to shove it at you like maybe Quentin Tarantino does. They can do a little bit more nonverbal storytelling, and they do it with impeccable technical skills. Dustin, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I liked this movie a lot. It is not exactly what I thought it was going to be. But in the best possible sense. And it helps that I had never seen a trailer. Like, all I knew was Coen Brothers. Yeah. I was like, okay, same. I'll check it out, because I already pay for Netflix, right?
Right.
There's no charge to me, so I'm seeing this. I really did enjoy this. I enjoyed the anthology series, or anthology type of movie. It makes me think of like the Twilight Zone movie.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff I think is really great, because there's not a really good outlet for short films. And so when you can string them together thematically, or just in terms of genre or whatever, and packages as a feature film, that's super interesting. I really enjoyed it.
I feel like they do quiet, like they do silence better than I feel like I've seen it. Like they just really utilize that well. It's like a movie that I felt like I could see. Like, I could watch this movie with no audio and like not be bored, like it just because it's so good to look at. But like, I could also listen to this movie with no visual and also just be like satisfied in a certain way by just the sounds of everything. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about the second short with James Franco. There's not a lot of dialogue in that. There's a lot of just silent storytelling, which is really great. And you're right. Put it on mute, and you kind of still understand what's happening. And that's a really difficult trick to pull off. Something they always told us in film school to strive for, but not something that many people can do.
Right.
Which of these six, do you guys have a favorite?
I was going to ask you the same thing. Philip, did you have a favorite story here?
I'm torn, because I think it was the Franco one, but I think part of that was because it came early on in the film, and so I just watched that, and like, I think it was the funniest one. Yeah, that I can remember for sure. But it also, like you said, like it was the one that just did silence. It did it really well. Like, there wasn't a lot of dialogue in that. It looked good. It's probably because I'm familiar with James Franco, But I think I enjoyed that one most. And then the one that I enjoyed the sort of story of it the most was the Oregon Trail one, like on the way up to the Fort Laramie.
Yeah,
it's the one I was most invested in.
Yeah, the longest one.
Yeah.
There's definitely the most story in that one, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Dustin, what about you? Did you have a favorite?
Yeah, I like All Gold Canyon, which is the Tom Waits one.
Yep.
Again, another one that has basically no dialogue.
Yeah.
Except for Tom Waits talking to himself. It's just a great story. And it comes at an interesting point in this film. This is the fourth of the six little shorts here. And by this point, what's interesting, I feel like, is it's where the Coen brothers knew what their formula was. What I mean by that is, we've already watched The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Near Algodones, and Meal Ticket, and we know that at some point in all of these, there's like a twist.
Yeah.
This pessimistic kind of twist that's going to take place.
Yeah.
So all through All Gold Canyon, we are waiting for it. We're waiting for that twist, and we finally feel like we're on top when we know that that's happening, and then it happens.
Yeah.
And then when it twists again,
Yeah.
you're like, crap, how did I miss it? and that to me is great, because that's where the Coen brothers really knew, like, yeah, we got you. Like, we know what we're onto, so we're just going to do it one more time. And yeah, so I enjoyed that one the most.
So I think of the three of us, in terms of initial reaction to the movie, I'll go ahead and say I can safely say that I liked this the least.
Okay.
Because I prefer straightforward storytelling.
Sure.
I just know myself, and I know that I just prefer to be invested in pretty literal action.
Yep.
You know, and as I was arguing with some guy on Facebook today, not actual action, but just action. This doofus didn't know what action in a storytelling sense meant.
Right.
It means when things happen. If a movie doesn't have action, then nothing is happening. Stupid.
Correct.
God, he's an idiot. Anyways, I finished it, and I was like, well, that wasn't very fun to watch. But it's one of those movies that so then I, of course, Google, and I go like, why do people like this? You know, so then I gained the appreciation for, because I knew that these were, okay, obviously these are all like allegories for either a specific like worldview, or essentially like a different, essentially we're going to take the Old West as like as a backdrop and express these ideologies and these outlooks through these stories, through these, but the overarching theme for a lot of these is that is death is a big theme in all of these. And so it's almost like different takes on death, like there's the whole you can't say top dog forever from Buster Scruggs, or the inevitability of death with James Franco, or the expendability of people in Meal Ticket, or the opportunists in the Gold one with Tom Waits. Yeah. To just like, that's a damn shame, and with the Wagon Train, and then a really surreal one on the last story. Yeah. So, and this is one of those movies that I can appreciate on a technical level after I read a little bit about it and realize like, oh, there is a lot of artistry. So, my initial reaction was, well, in terms of technical execution, this film is just like the other Coen films, which is perfectly executed. Yeah. And aesthetically pleasing to watch. It's just when it came to the story, I was like, oh, I'm not very satisfied. But that's not the point of this movie. Sure. So I have to recognize that, like, all right, so I would tell people, if you want to watch a straightforward story where characters grow and change, it's not happening. Yeah, it's not what this is. It's an anthology, and it's meant to express an idea through many stories. Right. That being said, my favorite of the vignettes was probably Meal Ticket. Okay. I did like the Gold Rush one because it was the one, where something good happened.
I feel like it was the most beautiful, too.
And it was the most, like, overtly, like, triumphant one. Like, they go really big with the score, and it's colored very, very brightly, and, and he's finding gold, and it's good, So Meal Ticket was just so, like, what I liked about it was so depressing in terms of its color grade. It's just this horrible gray blue, like the later Harry Potter movies, just this sense of dread throughout. Yeah. So what I liked about it was I enjoyed that there was almost no dialogue. I mean, the only dialogue is the monologues by Harrison, by the wingless. I think they call him the Wingless Wonder or something. Yeah. Just kind of messed up, seeing as he has no arms or legs. But correct. In the 18 whatevers.
And you know who played him, right?
Where do I know that guy from?
I was about to say.
I had to look it up because it bothered me so bad. That's Dudley Dursley.
Oh my God.
I know, which is funny. I thought that's why you mentioned Harry Potter a second ago.
Oh, I picture him looking up without his arms going, "Where's your mom, Potter? She dead?"
I've been
going, oh yeah, well, you've got no legs.
Beat up another 10-year-old.
Yeah, he beat up a 10-year-old. Oh, I
This
guess
one
not.
deserved it.
Not without no arms. Can't beat up a 10-year-old no arms, can you, Dudley? Daddy. Whatever. Anyway, there's a whole funny Harry Potter crossover with this. If you.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Well, anyways, let's stop making fun of the disabled guy, shall we?
Okay. Let's do it.
So so what I loved about it was it's like, oh, this is all nonverbal storytelling, so I really love that. And then as you learn more about these characters, their relationship, oh, is that like his son maybe?
Yeah.
But he's got this cool little cart that folds out onto this stage, and this. Mm-hmm. However he ran across Harrison, I imagine he found him somewhere and essentially purchased him so he could.
Yeah.
Read these soliloquies and all this stuff. So, but Harrison recites poems, plays, the Gettysburg Address, Ozymandias. I recognized, obviously, which made me think of Breaking Bad. But he did it. He read it really well.
Yeah, he did.
And he gives these captivating readings of these great literary works, and people gradually stop coming and stop paying. Yeah. And, without giving away too much, basically, Liam Neeson is clued into a different way to entertain people. Yeah. And so he goes that way instead. Yeah. And what I like about it is it's obviously like a little bit of a statement on maybe capitalism, but it's more about how your entertainment platform, your talent can be really... have lots of intellectual merit, but if people, it doesn't matter how legitimate it is. If people don't want to see it and they want to see something a lot dumber that will please the masses, then that's what's going to pay. And it was almost a critique on film when you can think about it. It's like,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah. That's what I took it to mean, is that the Coen brothers were sort of critiquing the state of the industry.
Yeah.
They've been, in the past kind of critical about the studio system right now, is that they'll only give you money to make a superhero movie. Yeah. And so I kind of took it to be sort of that like, here are artists giving dramatic readings of classics, or, these philosophical, artistically deep pieces that are just being replaced by a chicken. And so that's what I took it, as an allegory for, but yeah. Could be anything. Yeah.
So I liked it almost because it seemed the most like, oh, wow. So people that were, your talent is that expendable. And it is a critique on the entertainment industry in the other way of how it treats its talent, how it treats its artists.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's like as soon as you can't draw crowds, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the reason I like that one so much. But I can definitely appreciate them all. I guess I was just bummed from the outset because I thought the whole movie was going to be about Tim Blake Nelson. And so when his story's over, I was like, oh man, I was enjoying that so much.
He was Buster?
He was Buster.
Well, and I think that might have been why I enjoyed the James Franco one so much, was because it was the second one and I didn't know how the movie was going to go. And so I kind of enjoyed Buster and his like attitude, and kind of didn't expect the things that happened in that to happen. And then when he got shot, I was like, well that sucks. Like what's the rest of this going to be about? And then because the James Franco bit was so good to me and like so funny, then I was just like, all right, I'm on board. Looking forward to whatever the next one is. And then of course it was this depressing one.
Right.
Yeah, and I almost thought when I was watching the James Franco one, I thought, well, how are they going to do this? Because for some reason in my mind, I thought, okay, the movie's called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Surely he's going to appear in all of these shorts.
Right.
And so, like during that second one, I was like, so but he's dead. So is this taking place before? And when does he show up? And then he doesn't show up, and I'm like, oh,
as soon as you hear the next snap, you're like, oh, he's not coming.
Yeah, no, that's done.
It was kind of like in Pulp Fiction for me, like I was really, pissed when Vincent got shot, and like, but that had an element that didn't happen in this, which is, he showed back up,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I sort of thought something like that might happen where these, they would just have him show up. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm
Also,
going to some so-and-so town.
Right. Hooper, I was so depressed that Clancy Brown lasted all of 5 seconds.
Oh, man. I saw his name in the credits. I was like, oh, it's pretty high up there. He must be heavily featured.
Yeah, I was like, yay, Clancy Brown. I love that guy.
Yeah.
And then he gets killed, and I'm like, you didn't last long, buddy.
And can I just say that if I'd been in a theater when he got killed, I imagine there'd be uproarious laughter.
Yeah, yes.
He gets killed in an unnecessarily gory way.
Yes, but it is very funny.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, and when it comes to recommending this movie to people, I'd say, look, you have Netflix. It doesn't cost you anything to go check it out. I would just say, again, if you want something straightforward that's going to be, pretty easy to understand and pretty easy to follow. I mean, it's easy to follow, but it's just like most of the Coen Brothers movies, it's not going to straight up entertain you. It's going to make you, they're think pieces and they're vehicles for ideas. So they're not aiming for like a 3-act structure with a character arc. So if that's what you're looking for with this movie, it's not that at all. It's not even one story. But if you are used to the Coen Brothers and their storytelling devices and their sensibilities, and you're into it, then this is another thing that kind of goes into their scrapbook. And really is them showing off some new talents, which is the anthology story structure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. And as far as recommending this, I was actually talking to my dad about this because he was like, I saw this thing on Netflix, I didn't watch it, and so I was kind of telling him about it. I was like, look, my grandfather is a big Western nut. Like, he just watches Westerns all the time. And I was like, this is not a movie I would recommend to him. This is not what he would want out of it. So I wouldn't even necessarily say if you like Westerns, you'll like this. I would just say if you like Coen Brothers movies, if you like movies that seek to, thematically link supposedly disparate stories, you'll like this because that's the nature of an anthology film. And if you like any of the talent, you'll like this because it is well made, well directed, well executed. But yeah, it's a strange one, and I agree with you, Hooper. I mean, it's not something where you're like, okay, when I'm done, I feel like I got to know a character thoroughly before, during, after their arc, this kind of thing. It's essentially, the way I look at it is, like I said, it's a packaging of short stories. So short stories defy the 3-act structure. They often are just, a quick little, you know what? Here's a good way to look at it. If you're sitting around a campfire, when you're camping with your buddies, you're not going to tell a 3-act story. Right. You're going to tell just a quick little thing. And that's what these are. Yep. And now they're all related because imagine sitting around that campfire with your friends and one guy tells a story and it reminds the next guy of a story that he knows. And so he tells that story and they're only vaguely related, right, but it made him think of the other story. Yeah. And then the next guy goes and the next guy goes and the next guy goes. And at the end of it, you've got 6 stories that were told very quickly that just sort of vaguely resemble one another, right, in some weird way. But you never really whet your appetite on one of those stories. It's just sort of like a surface level story. Yeah. And just enough to get the point across. And if you're into that, you're into that.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, that's a perfect way to sum it up, Dustin.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, that's the hour, you guys.
Yeah.
I think we'll wrap it up there.
Sounds good.
Dustin, next week, what do we want to put on the docket to talk about?
Well, I think you and I both saw Isle of Dogs.
Yes.
So we can talk about that.
Talk about that.
I'll bring up Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Okay. Since that comes out this week. I'll go ahead and preface it just by saying, if you have a chance to see it this week, see it and then come back. I'm not going to spoil it next week, but go see it. Yeah. Yeah.
I went to the library and for some reason rented 2 movies, even though that I'm extremely busy this week and I'm going to find a hard time watching them both. But I'm going to watch where's the camera? Tully,
Okay.
Jason Reitman's newest film,
Yep.
and Sorry to Bother You, which I've heard great things about.
Yeah.
As the critics say, it's Get Out on acid. But I've heard Sorry to Bother You is an experience, so
Yeah.
I want to experience that.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's it. Phil,
Sweet.
thanks for guesting.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Dustin,
Yeah.
we'll do it next
Yes.
week, man.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
everybody.
See some good movies. See some of these movies, maybe. And then come back and see us next week on the HooperCast Movie Hour. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.